Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS core plays for this week's 3M Open. Gonna take a look at the top end of the Draftkings pricing and bring you 4 of my foundational GPP plays that I'll be using in a majority of my lineups to give you an idea of some of my exposure, and also 4 players that I'm targeting for an outright bet that I think you might want to consider before going out there and getting to some of your own builds. So without further ado, a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and start it off with a look at some of my key stats and comp courses of the week to get an idea of how I'm targeting my top plays. First off, with our key stats, at the top of the list, we've got shots gained approach. And what you really want to focus on here are some of these middle tier buckets. So I would say at 150 to 175, 175 to 200, and 200 to 225 yards are going to be your most common buckets this week. And you're also going to see quite a few wedges. So if you're going to hunker down on anything, I'd say maybe these middle tier guys, maybe those 50 to 125 yard shots, it'd be what you want to be looking at. Also, taking a look at driving accuracy this week, there are 15 holes with water in play, and you're also going to have a lot of natural areas, long fescue, that can cause you a lot of trouble off the tee. So historically, players that have gained a bunch of strokes off the tee here have gotten the job done. But that also includes driving distance, looking at off the tee at some of the courses with a little bit more water than what we're used to seeing. In terms of your putting stats, we've got bent grass this week. Par 5 scoring has been correlated to winners at this track. Around the green stats, there's plenty of bunkers. So, of course, your last 36 round baseline, but also throwing in some sand stats. And then bounce back, I think, is one of the, maybe the more unique key stats that you're going to see on this model. You're going to get a lot of bogeys, double bogeys, triples out there. How you react to those is huge. And then also in terms of our comps, we've got this course, right, in terms of course history, the Travelers Champ, John Deere Classic, Honda Classic down there, all courses with a bunch of water in play, a lot of volatility, and at least with these middle two, you have a lot of agronomy similarities too. So those are the kind of things I'm looking at in general. We want a really good driver of the golf ball, and then somebody that can get hot with the irons, right? With those middle tier irons, is maybe shining compared to some of their peers. So if we're looking at our core plays, first up, we've got Sungjae Im, who's probably the most straightforward of these core plays. The one that showed the most last week there at the Open Championship. Played particularly well. You take a look at that, had a top 20 finish, did miss the cut at the Scottish, which is a little bit concerning, but top 25 at the Market Mortgage, top 30 at the Travelers. He maybe wasn't posting those top 10s, top 15s that we got used to seeing from him, especially towards the beginning of 2023. But in general, the longer term we look at Sungjae Im, he's a top 3, top 5 player in this field, pretty much no matter what sample you look at. And the longer sample you look at, the better and better Sungjae Im looks. So I like him in this sort of field, especially considering some of the comps. You may remember, right? We have PGA National on there, a place that he's won before. John Deere Classic, a place that Sungjae Im has had a ton of success at. TPC River Highlands has a bunch of made cuts and top 25s there. And then at this golf course, maybe not a ton of success, but T2 last year, T15 the first year there in 2019. A lot of crossover success and comp course success that I'm liking. The fact that he goes out there and gains on bent grass is just an added little bonus on top, making him one of my top plays of the slate. So what differentiates him from some of these other top end guys too is how accurate he is off the tee, right? If we're looking for somebody that can keep themselves in play, try and avoid some of the hazards out there, well, with these first 3 boxes, he checks them in bunches. So definitely like him for this week. I think the bent grass numbers are good enough for me, and hopefully isn't going to be mega chalk, because with all of that, all of those good things going for him, it's going to get a lot of people onto a Sungjae Im, but hopefully, like I said, isn't like 25-30% owned, making him a good play in this large field contest. Next up, we've got ourselves Justin Thomas, who this one's going to be a little bit more controversial, right? I don't think a lot of people are going to want to run to the window to play JT, but I am here because of some of the comp course success, right? I know the recent form isn't there, so you don't want to play Justin Thomas because you think he's coming in with good form. What you really want to focus on are the wins at PGA National, right? Him playing well at the Travelers Championship a few times. And though he's never played here before, right? He's never had to show up to this golf tournament before. I think it might be a pretty good course fit for him, because a few other tracks I'm considering as comps, you would have TPC Sawgrass, one of the golf courses with a bunch of water in play like you have this week. He's played pretty decently at the Memorial, another bent grass track that has a bunch of water in play as well. And in general, at courses where you have to be accurate off the tee, he's actually done a lot better than you'd expect, right? Because Justin Thomas, not an accurate driver of the golf ball. What he's good at doing is clubbing down, using a 3-wood or even driving iron at times, and hitting a bunch of fairways there and leaning into his long irons. If he can do that this week, I like his chances. And the only reason he's here, guys, is he's motivated, right? He has to get points to get into the FedEx Cup playoffs. And the only way he's going to get substantial points is if he top 5, top 10. So some may say like the form's horrible, so on and so forth. I understand that. I get why you would completely avoid him. But if you're willing to take a risk on a guy, you're not going to find a more motivated player in JT, and maybe not a better course fit, especially in terms of some of the comps, than what you have here in a Justin Thomas too. So, much like a Sun JM, the longer term you go on a JT, the better the stats look. Some may call him broken at this point. I really couldn't argue that, but people were saying the same thing about Cameron Young before he went out there and nearly won the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So I would say maybe give these guys a little bit more of a leash than you'd expect, and every once in a while, they're going to go out there and surprise you, right, and completely snap out of it. So I like him at the price tag, $9,300, and this field is more than a fair enough price tag. And I think considering the recent form that we're getting, I'm assuming he's going to be like maybe sub 10% owned, right? I don't think a lot of people are going to get there. I think people would rather play Ludwig, Sepp Straka, who's on an absolute heater, even spend up for like a Griot or go down to a Gary Woodland, who've just been a little bit more, consistent of late, right? Have actually shown that recent form, and hopefully JT becomes that low-owned pivot that we can get to in this 9K range. Before we hop into our last two plays, I'll remind you, if you want access to all of my projections, anything that is blacked out there on the spreadsheet, make sure to check out my Patreon page. There is a link down below. On there, I'm constantly updating with my projections, projected ownership, player pool, showdown projections for rounds 2 through 4, also props for all 4 rounds over there in Underdog and Prize Picks, all for the same price of $10. So if that sounds like something up your alley, something that would help you out with your process, make sure to go ahead and check it out in the description. On there, again, all of my modeling, projections as they update throughout the week, but also all of my research sources. So, for the showdown sheets of rounds 2 through 4, you have all the shots gained metrics, recent form, tournament history at your disposal, all for that same price tag. So check it out. It goes a long way with helping me support the channel here and what I'm doing with this content, and also should help you guys a lot with what you're doing in your process. Next up, we've got a player that you might not also have been thinking of, right? Maybe not the first player to come in mind when you think of a course with a lot of water at it, but Gary Woodland, $9,200, another player who's had a lot of success at the Honda Classic. I've gotten to see a lot of that success in person there, and at just layup tracks, right? Places where you're taking less than driver. For whatever reason, Gary Woodland, one of the better drivers on tour, gains a ton of strokes off the tee, hits almost every single fairway when he goes out there and doesn't hit driver, yet still can hit his 3-wood, his driving irons 280 to 300 yards. So that's why he's so effective at these sort of tracks. And at $9,200, you're also getting a player that's in sneaky good form. So that's the event history, right? Does have a T11 here at the 3M Open. But if you look at the recent form here, T55, T25, T33, these were all in quality fields out there. Also before that, just grinding out top 25 after top 25. Though he hasn't had a lot of top end upside, I think it's coming, right? We've got to wait for the putter for good old Gary Woodland. So of late has been doing his thing from tee to green, gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, and gaining around the green. But most notably here, right, gaining a stroke per round with the irons. I mean, that is just next level stuff right there. That's the best of pretty much any player in this range. And then losing nearly half a stroke per round with the putter. Very much so on brand. Gary Woodland, not the best putter on tour. We've got to get him to go out there and spike for 3-4 shots gained, right? If we're going to get that top 5 or potentially even that win out of Gary Woodland, who I did bet outright this week, just like the other 3 players here. But Gary Woodland, right, the reason why I think he's got that upside this week, why I am betting him outright, is he does gain on bent grass. Bent grass is his best surface on the PGA Tour. In fact, he's rated around half a stroke better on this surface compared to any other surface on the PGA Tour. And given how good he's been from tee to green, not just the last 12 rounds, but if we zoom out, look at the last 36, right, he's gaining even more off the tee, still gaining 0.7 strokes per round on approach over the last 36. So, I mean, that's a huge sample and still just ridiculous stats with the iron play. I like his chances at this track, right? You know, we always talk about Gary Woodland at these layup golf courses. We're now getting him on bent grass, which he seems to like a whole lot, and he has a T11 at this golf course. Checks literally every box that I'm looking for. So, even the comp courses, right? Does well at PGA National, has played well at a few other comps on here too, right? 11th place finish at TPC Twin Cities. Absolutely love the play. I do think he's going to get more ownership than Justin Thomas, which is just like another reason why JT is like the nuts play here for this GPP slate, but definitely like Gary Woodland too. Our last play is going to be Sahith Theegala, and last 2 weeks over there in England, missed the cut both times. So Sahith was on a huge streak of making cuts. I believe it was like 20 for 20 at one point for making cuts on the season. It has now missed, I know the last two at least, but may have actually missed more than that. I know he missed the last two, had the T52 there. I think he missed at least one more cut over the last few months, and then it's been all straight made cuts. Or do we really think he's broken, or do we think it's just a bad stretch of form, right? Something that happens to even the best players out there, right? Rory went out there, he missed a couple cuts in a row. He went out there like hardly even made the cut 1 week in between, and then now he's a top 10 machine every single week, right? Going out there winning golf tournaments again. So like that's just the ebbs and flows of the sport. That's just going to happen with a lot of these top end players. And at $8,700, you know, kind of like with the other guys here, the comp courses make sense. TPC River Highlands nearly won the Travelers last year. You know, has been okay at some of the other comps. Like PGA National, I don't think he has experience there. But I'm willing to take a chance on good old Sahith Theegala. Has 2 missed cuts at this track. The form's not good. He's essentially going to be unowned. Last week at the Open, he was like 3.5% owned. And normally Sahith is like 15 to 20% owned regardless of price and field. Now he feels a little overpriced, right, given how he's played of late. He's coming in with 2 missed cuts at this golf course and in some of the worst form over the last 2 years that we've seen. So you may go, Luke, why are you playing him? He's just a damn good player. We've seen Sahith Theegala play, right? Round 1 at the Open, he blew up. Went out there, shot like 8-9 over par. It was embarrassing for Sahith Theegala. You know what he did for Friday? He probably didn't because he didn't play him for Showdown, right? You completely wrote him off. He shot 4 under par, made a bunch of birdies, played his ass off on that Friday afternoon. So don't think it's impossible for somebody like him to turn it around. And if he just takes that momentum from that Friday round and uses that as momentum for this week, well, watch out. Guy could win this golf tournament, right? And you may say, oh, he doesn't have the driving accuracy that you need. You could say the same thing about JT, yet he won at PGA National. You could say the same thing about, a few other players in this field like Gary Woodland, right? Especially him at these, club down golf courses, yet he still finds a way to get it done. Sahith still found a way to get it done at TPC River Highlands, of course, with a bunch of water in play. Why can't he get it done in this kind of field at this gettable of a golf course? I mean, Matthew Wolff has won here before. Cameron Champ has won here before, right? You're talking about some of the more wild drivers of the golf ball on all the PGA Tour. If they can win here, Sahith can get it done too. So I've bet him outright. I've taken the chance in GPPs, and much like a JT, we're going to get a lower priced JT and Sahith than we probably should be getting, right? They'd be in the 10K range undoubtedly if they were in any semblance of their normal form. Even Sahith, right? He'd be at least like $98, $99, $100. And they'd also probably be mega chalk. Like people would be playing them at those price tags, right? They'd be like 20, 25% owned. They're $1,000 cheaper now, and they're going to be sub 10% owned. They're, in my opinion, some of the best plays on the slate. So you could sit there and take all your guys in form all you want. All these scrubs that Sepp Straka, for example, who the model absolutely loves this week at like 3 times the ownership. He's probably $1,500 to $2,000 too expensive. Or you could take legitimately good players at like 3 times lower ownership and way cheaper than they probably should be. So I know we're going to get a few people down there in the chat that completely disagree with that go, oh, you have to play the chalk, you have to take the guys in form up top. Respectfully agree to disagree there. So that's my strategy for this week. It's going to be super unique, especially down here in the 8 and 9K range, and I'm going to have no issues when it comes to differentiation. That's all I've got for the core plays this week. Before you hopping out of here, first off, smash that like button for me, and also let me know who you've got winning this thing, right? Maybe who you've gone out there and already bet outright. For me, if I had to pick my favorite outright, I'd go in with Justin Thomas. He's got to get something done, right, to move up that FedEx Cup board, and he's got to be seeing all that talk online, all of that shit talking from all these people saying that he's dead, can't get it done anymore, and maybe like good old Brian Harmon at the Open, it'll just motivate him to play a little bit better. So, if he's going to make the Ryder Cup, JT's got to do something drastic over the next few starts. What would it be this week to go out there and get a victory and get the ball moving in the right direction. So I'll go with JT. Let me know your thoughts down below. I know it's a little bit of a hot take. We'll be doing content throughout the week as per usual. So value plays tomorrow. We'll have fades and sleepers. Our live stream will be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So keep an eye out for all of that content dropping, and let's have ourselves a week. Remember, guys, these are all, my core plays for this week, but also 4 players that I'm taking outright. So if you're looking for outright card, that's my outright card as of right now. And then, of course, throughout the week, if I add to that, I'll be sure to let you guys know as well. Best of luck out there. Appreciate all the support here on the channel, guys, and let's get this cash.